Hey guys, welcome back to Jason Unleashed. Happy Monday. It's a new week. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. How's it going? Jason Carter here. Good to see ya. And great show today because my guest is producer, journalist, writer, and owner of Lindsey Granger Productions, and she's a co-host of the nationally syndicated Daily Blast Live. My good friend Lindsey Granger is in the building. She is bomb.com. I know I sound really basic saying that, but you're going to see why. She's here. Let's bring Lindsey in. Boom, gonna go live with LGO. Is my internet slow today? She should have connected by now. There we go. Lindsey.
Hey. I don't know what took so long, but I thank you for the awesome intro. I appreciate that.
Of course. I mean, I had to give you your flowers. Lindsey Granger, welcome to the show. Welcome to Jason Unleashed. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. You're awesome. You know, I send the love right back to you.
I receive it.
You're just as amazing. And somebody told me the other day, like, when people give you compliments, and maybe you're good at this, I don't know, but I'm like, oh no, I always downplay. And somebody was like, yo, accept the compliment, like bask in the compliment. But I always felt like that was a bad thing. But now I'm gonna be like, thank you.
Yeah, well, it's because like we're humble individuals and we're just doing our thing. But I'm really bad at receiving compliments, but I love giving them. So it's like giving gifts, right? I hate getting gifts, but I love giving gifts. It's like one of those things. We have to work on that, LG. We gotta work on that.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing? You are busy girl. Quarantine. I mean, I watch you every day. Seriously, okay, here's full disclosure, full transparency. DBL has got me through quarantine. I hope you know that. I watch all 3 day parts, early show, the stream, and access. And I'm so grateful to you guys because the work you do covering these stories and the way you guys have been able to pivot and really just be authentically present in what's happening in our world outside of our front doors is incredible. So thank you for the work you do. It's not lost, and you're celebrated and you're seen. So thank you, Lindsey. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. I know that you actually watch because you text me from time to time like, oh yeah, I saw that face, and I'm like, oh my God, he genuinely watches all the time.
I do. But we've been watching you, Lindsey. You have been a journalist for well over a decade. You have worked on some of the best and most herald platforms, People, Elle Magazine, Revolt TV, AOL, MSNBC, national television, the list. I mean, you're a hardworking girl, but at the core of all of that, you have this deep, unrelenting passion for true journalism. Where did that come from?
I think when I was younger, I grew up in Long Island, so I used to always watch my local news, like hyper local. And so I was like, how do these women that I used to see on television, how do they get to do this for a living? And that was my first interest. And I really genuinely went to school for journalism. I love writing first, and most importantly, that's something that I like to write, whether it's scripted or unscripted or just writing news stories. It's something that I'm really passionate about. I love how people use words to tell stories. And so when I got into journalism, and realize that people actually, whether it's one person or 1 million people, rely on getting information a lot of times from their local news people, and then even on a bigger scale from national news. I felt like it's a responsibility that I would take in stride and just learn as much as I can from people that have mentored me. People like Melissa Harris Perry, who I know is a student of every experience she's had, from getting all the many degrees she has to teaching at Ivy Leagues to teaching across the country. And I watched how careful she was with making sure she was accurate historically and about the things she discussed. And so I took some of those lessons from her and other people like Tamron Hall that I worked with and just tried to be the best that I could. And so I was lucky that I had a lot of great teachers and had a great first job at MSNBC that kind of set me on this trajectory to get to where I am now.
And where you're at now, I mean, you're killing the game. I was watching, we'll talk about Daily Blast Live, but you're a Temple University graduate. You've covered hard news. You've been on the front lines. You stood in snow and covered stories in snow. Yeah, Lindsey, like you, the research is everything, but also it's good. You want to get the full grasp and the full scope of the breadth of their work. You have to really dig deep. It's like TJ Maxx. You never know what you're gonna find, right? You're just like stripping back the layers and like, oh my God, she did this. But you traveled all around, honing the acumen that you have now. You said that you've had these great mentors and things of that nature. that have led you to become the journalist you are now. What do you think is missing from journalism in 2020? Because with social media, I feel the cornerstone of being factual and actual and vetting things and fact checking is out the door. It's just like we see a headline on Twitter, we see a headline on wherever, and that's law, that's fact. How have we arrived at this?
Well, I think it's awesome because I always tell people that are younger than me that create content, write stories, like even if nobody's employing you or paying you to do these things, do it for yourself so people can know that you're a great writer. Take a news segment that you like and rewrite it in your own voice, because that's what I was taught to do. But I do think that with all that out there and all the many blogs and different access to information, places like TMZ that most of the time are accurate with facts, but don't follow the journalistic regimen that we all followed and were trained to do growing up, like, it's just a different time that we're in. So my thing is, like, when you have outlets, which is why I went off about like the Washington Post reporter earlier this year with Kobe Bryant. Outlets that are supposed to be like these esteemed journalists, and your title is actually reporter, and then you're tweeting out or you're writing a lot of opinion, because there's analysis, which what we do on DBL is analysis, and on MSNBC in primetime they analyze, and I think there's a space for that. But during the daytime they read off the real true news and try to not, even on Fox during the daytime they try to read off the news besides the morning show, and then in primetime they get into real analysis in their opinion. And I think that we have to find the line and do enough research ourselves to find the truth in it. Places like NPR just tell you the story. Colorful writers, amazing writers, but they tell you the true story. And I got frustrated because whether it was journalists that actually have the title, journalists at certain companies were mocking like Blue Ivy for her hair or things like that. That's frustrating to me because you're somebody that we look to for factual information and you're perpetuating these stereotypes. And that's really dangerous when you have such a platform. And that was my biggest point. So I think that we have to now do more homework because there's more availability to information to make sure that we have a full spectrum of what's going on so we can make a full decision.
I agree 100%. With great power becomes great responsibility, and the responsibility of journalists, especially at a platform. I saw live. You were 1 month in at DBL, Daily Blast Live, and you read this woman for filth, but it was so nuanced. And when you hit what was so, I would say, otherworldly, Lindsey, was when you said, what we do here is not journalism. We are just a talk show that has opinions. I was like,
it's true though.
I know, but it was just shots fired, but not in a way that was dramatic, but it's the truth though. And I think that we, much like when you talk to your fellow co-host Erica Cobb about being an ally and talking to people who are not POC about allyship, it's not our job to be the Encyclopedia Britannica for you to find that with the wealth of information that is readily available with one of these, with really good internet. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, allyship, Black Lives Matter, historic Black figures, do your homework. It's so easy. So I agree with you 100%. In your career, though, you have, like I said, have this great journey going from MSNBC, writing a documentary, working for Elle, landing at the list in Arizona. How did we end up there?
So let me see. So I had moved to LA to work for Revolt. That's where I wrote the documentary on Kevin Durant. And luckily when you work for a startup, which I would always encourage people to do, you have the freedom to kind of decide what your role will be. And not so structured like at an NBC News where my role was exactly video producer or field producer, like, and you got to do that exact job. So at Revolt, it was like, I want to pitch a documentary. And they were like, cool, can you help us find a crew, do everything? And I was like, yeah, I can do everything. And so I left there and I was ready to be on air. And a lot of times at Revolt, I wasn't given the opportunity to be on air because when you are great at the job you have, a lot of times managers want you to stay in that role. And so it's no shade to them. That just is an experience that a lot of people have. So I knew I had to leave to either eventually come back or leave to go do something else. And so that's the first time I decided to get an agent, which I had been anti-agent because I always have just, I'm used to having dialogue with people like, listen, I'll argue for myself, for my pay, but I understood the value in getting an agent. I'm sure you understand.
I know.
To not
it's a
be part
struggle.
of awkward conversations is preferable at this point.
Yeah. Totally.
And so my agent actually, she didn't want to represent me because she said to me, you know, you have a lot of journalism experience, but I need we represent a lot of YouTube stars. You don't have a big following. At the time, I might have had like 8,000 followers, which I thought was a big deal, but apparently she didn't. And then it just so happens that she knew the executive producer from The List because she was coming over from reality television to switch roles and try to make the show more entertaining. And she had a relationship with her, and she's like, listen, I'll take you on because you have this journalism experience and I want to pitch you to the show. I can't guarantee anything, but go for it. And I'm always the person that, like, if I'm in the room, either it ain't for me or I got the job.
Boom, right.
There's nothing that I did wrong. I don't ever come to the room unprepared.
Yeah.
So I went there and I got the job, and it clicked almost immediately for that timing to find an agent to have that role. So sometimes, I know Oprah and a lot of other people always say this, but preparation and opportunity equals success, right? So
right.
You got to be prepared. Like you said, I did all this research. You always do this research, but you can't just expect it to fall in your lap. Sometimes that happens, and that's amazing. But a lot of times you're prepared and you don't even realize you're like willing that thing into existence.
Preach. Real quick, I want to say something to LaCora Stevens. She celebrates you, and she was in this. I loved how you talked about.
Hi, LaCora.
LaCora's dope. She has a show called The Yes Show. Get into her. She's an incredible Black creator, content creator. I feel you on the agent thing, and I'm glad you talked about that. I think we talked about it too, because like here we are, you know, the hustle. You're in New York. You're from New York. You're born with that hustle, right? I always talk about how people of color have this strong, powerful work ethic. We are taught from a young age that you have to make it happen. Privilege? What's that? What does that smell like? What does that taste like? Ooh, privilege. It sounds like a dish you get at Red Lobster. You know, it's like we don't know what that is. So for you to have had that experience, and then it landed you on national television for a somewhat conservative company. Scripps, who produces The List, is historically a conservative company.
For sure.
That working there, what experiences, what did you take away from that?
I thought it was one of those things where it was very much organized. Like I said, when you leave Revolt, where I can pretty much, I worked around all Black people at Revolt. Yeah. So it was like, wow, Black people thriving. Like, this was amazing. To leave that, I was really sad, but I did go to Scripps and have a whole different experience where there were people of color on the screen, but behind the scenes, there's one Black person, to be transparent about my show. And so I think that it was a culture shock to go from one to the other. But again, it's one of those times where you create your role. Like, I was given the role of correspondent. I like to write and produce naturally, so I was doing that as well. And one of the reasons why I decided to leave was that I was ready to host the show after being there for 3 years, and there just wasn't space for it, right? They had 2 hosts that were staying for years, and I love both of them. And so just like you, I'm sure in your career, when it's time to go, that's when we started looking. I actually changed agents, and this new television agent found me DBL. So that was how that all worked. And sometimes, like I said, timing, I had done a lot of hosting. Like, we hosted, Shagun and I hosted the Bounce Trumpet Awards a year before I left The List. So that prepared me to show on my reel that you send into agents and different potential employers that I can host a TV show.
Right.
I can host a live television show also. And then that led to this opportunity. So like I said, you never know what opportunity you're doing right now that prepares you for tomorrow.
100. I co-sign the hell out of that. LaCora says the power of walking away.
Let me tell you, you got to know when to fold it. And I am so sad. I still to this day say that working at Revolt was one of my favorite jobs, only because I got to interview some of my childhood idols. I had so much fun. I literally can throw an idea at the wall and I could create a television show if I wanted to. But, you know, it was time to go. And I still talk to everybody and have an amazing relationship. I don't believe in leaving on any weird note or doing anything shady. I always give a month's notice. But, you know, when it's time, I'm that person. But when it's time to go, listen, it's been real. Hopefully we'll work together again.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. That's all she wrote. That's
because
it.
When I was younger, I didn't have that mindset, and I stayed places way too long. You know what I mean? And realized that even though the timing was perfect as it is, because life happens how it happens, looking back, if I just would have believed in myself a little bit more, I could have just taken the risk of moving to LA a couple of years earlier.
But listen, no, LA is not all it's cracked up to be. I mean, I have just exited LA for Miami, so trust me on that.
Well, I'm jealous for that too. Miami is beautiful.
And it rained today. That humidity's got my skin all dewy. It's incredible. But yes, fall of 2019. to Denver, the Mountain Time Zone, which shout out to Denver. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I have best friends in Denver. Denver's a great city. You land on a nationally syndicated television show that is an experiment in itself, right?
Right.
That has been successful. I tested for that show back in 2017. A lot of people did it, and I love the people. The panel is just so organically, it just works, it just fits. And in 2020, we have seen Daily Blast Live, which is out of Denver on Tegna, just transform into this vehicle of just, I don't want to say wokeness. I hate using the word woke, but just how you guys have covered what has happened has been so nuanced. You come on in the fall and you are not afraid to reveal. That's one of the things I love about you, Lindsey, is that, you know, Tatiana Jefferson, that moment, you're fresh on this show, you're fresh to these viewers, and you are not afraid to just be like, this is too much, America. Right now in this moment, how I feel about the violence against this woman of color, let me have my moment. That vulnerability, like being brave enough to do, not a lot of people are afraid or can do that. Not a lot of talent will do that on camera, but for yourself, that vulnerability, why is it so important for you to be vulnerable and be your authentic self?
So I never have worked on a daily live show that I had to be live every day. So even on the list, we pre-taped all of our packages that I produced and hosted, but then we sent them in and they were more like lifestyle. And before that.
Right. Oh, you froze. I
Nobody
figured.
ever calls me.
And now they call you.
Right. So, like I said, I never, even for Revolt, we did cover a lot of heavy topics, like when Mike Brown passed away or Baltimore burning. We did a whole documentary on that. But like I said, it was pre-taped and I was producing a lot more. Mm-hmm. So in between there, when you name things like Elle or USA Today, or even working for Melissa Harris Perry, a lot of the times I was behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And so I could cry when I got home or, you know, watch what they were doing and then feel my own ways. But to have the light shining on you, and that Tatiana Jefferson was the first example of that when I got to DBL, and talk about such a heavy issue and watch that video and look at a girl who literally to me looked like me. Yeah. And her the things that she's experienced reminded me of some of my closest friends with mm-hmm. loving their niece or nephew sitting in the house and watching them, getting her master's. And I just was like, not intending on crying. I had a whole spiel I was ready to say, but I just couldn't talk because it's so sad to watch somebody like, my thing was like, after seeing Botham Jean, if you're going to die in your home, where are we safe? And I was so unprotected in that moment. And then again, several other times after that, which we've seen now, mm-hmm. it's more where I can have dialogue about it. But I even broke down when it came down to the second week talking about George Floyd. Like, I didn't have any other dialogue to say because sometimes it's exhausting to be the person. I know it's exhausting for Tamika Mallory and everybody who's really in the streets, and I applaud them every day and try to get out there as much as I can. But it's exhausting to come on there and have something smart to say when really all I want to do is cry. And I think that every person of color and Black person was feeling that way.
100%. Like, I worked in an outlet, Lindsey, where at the time, Jussie Smollett was the topic, right? And before everything that transpired with Jussie, he was a victim of a Black man was a victim of a hate crime. That's what the headline were, allegedly, right? And so being LGBTQ plus Black on this major platform, I was immediately thrust to be the poster kid, the voice for the whole community, the voice for not the Black community. And it's exhausting because you yourself are internalizing what has just happened. You know, like you are a person that has emotions and feelings. You're not this robot that just goes on TV and just reads a prompter. And, you know, so for when I saw that live actually on air with when you had your moment with the Tatiana, and I thought, wow, like, you don't see that often. And going from a pre-tape show like The List to live TV, was that daunting? Because some people, live television is scary as, like, live TV is, it's real, and the camera isn't live. For you, when you made that jump from pre-recorded to live, what was going through your head? Like, did you lose sleepless nights, anxiety? Was there a lot of wine tossed back? What happened?
Well, I got to give a lot of credit to my partner, Colin. Like, he coached me through the whole thing and was just like, you got this. You know, he believes in me sometimes more than I believe in myself. But I did have a lot of imposter syndrome, which I'm learning about now, where you just don't think that you deserve to be there. And so even when I have a good friends of mine that are on CNN or ABC, and like when I watch them do their thing live, I'm like, I could never. Even like 2 years ago, I'm like, I could never. You know, how could they be so articulate in that way? Like I can't find the words on the spot. But then I started to learn more about live television, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one most of the time throws you a random topic unless it's breaking news, like like you can get like at least an hour to prep for the show.
Sure.
So it's not all like knee jerk, what do you think? No type of preparation.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was outside looking in. Now I understand that it's up to me to kind of be aware. I get the New York Times alert every single evening or early morning, I should say, and just read about what's going on. So when we have our morning meeting, even if it wasn't on my radar, I'll hear a little bit about it in the meeting. And then I'll do my own research beforehand, because even though we are a talk show and it probably would be okay to show up and just have dialogue about my knee-jerk thoughts, I know that for me, I like to put a little bit more substance behind what I'm saying and like have some type of information and research that I can help the voter have. I mean, not the voter, but in this moment, the voter, but the viewer have some good takeaway. Yeah, well, make some informed decisions, and like what I said actually has some type of impact, whether they disagree, which I love, or agree. Just get the brain working in any way that they can.
You have had some of the most, I would say, compelling moments on DBL. I've done my research, and just I would never be able to tell that you weren't on live TV before the year you've been almost a year been on DBL, because your response is so nuanced. I mean, from every topic that you've covered, from racism to how you feel politically about things, because I know I asked you, Lindsey, are you conservative politically? And you're like, no, Jay, but the way you attack things and the way it's like a dance you do, but you go hard though. When you feel a way about something, it's just like, you guys hold on, boom. And it's almost as if like I don't know, I don't want to say chills, but it's like, okay, I don't know whether to clap, slow clap, I don't know, to smoke a cigarette. It's like, because like you preach the gospel, and it comes from such a visceral place. And I think that's not something you learn. I think that God just gave you a talent and has opened.
I don't really believe in, and I appreciate that, thank you. But I don't believe in like blind allegiance. And so I think I got that from my father growing up. It's just like, do your own homework. If everybody says go that way, that doesn't mean go that way, right?
Sure.
Everybody can be walking into a ditch. And so that's why I always question. It's not like I say I'm unaffiliated voter, because I have to see what's happening. So like when Biden announced, or presidential candidate Joe Biden announced his Lift Every Voice plan for African-American people in America, I went through it and was like, cool, this is a very broad stroke statement. I even had critiques of the DNC last week. These are very broad stroke responses. What actually are you doing? And having lost another Black person, watching him getting shot in the back yesterday, there's so many issues that we can't just broad stroke say we need to do better. Like, you are the leader of the country potentially. So what exactly are you going to do? And I would hold any candidate to that same standard. And not to say that this is not an inclusive America and I'm worried about everybody having proper treatment. But I think when it's urgent, we're talking about the house actually being on fire right now. We're not going to say we need to rebuild and remodel all homes. Like the Black homes are on fire right now. So you need to understand exactly what you're going to do to save us from continuing down this road, because we've been taught for so long that our lives don't matter, which is why we have to say things like Black Lives Matter. And so to me, I'm more issues based and policy based, as opposed to just blind allegiance to candidates because my grandma or somebody voted for that party.
And which I think millennials and younger Gen Zs now are the exact same way. Like, people aren't, they're now more informed than ever. So there's nothing wrong with being that way. All you're doing is caring about the well-being of the culture and the people, and that should be celebrated and lauded, not seen as, oh, well, you're Black, you have to vote Democrat, or you're Black, you have to do this. It's like, no, like, what's best for the people. And I think more people are starting to have that kind of thought process as well. Beyond you being on camera, you are this mogul, Lindsey Granger Productions, and you have dropped some really cool stuff in quarantine, from Why Do You Care What We Think with Erica Cobb to What Now, that just debuted earlier this summer, yes?
Like just 2 weeks ago.
Where do you find the time? Because even doing this once a day takes a lot of time, but you are a producer at your core. These ideas, this content, what was it born of?
I've always wanted to start a production company. I've always said, like, my goal was was never to be on, in front of the camera. Like if I'm behind the camera and I'm helping write or produce some amazing content that really opens the door for people of color when we're largely left behind out of a lot of conversations, then I'm happy. Especially given the fact that I worked at NBC at the time when I watched the situation with Ann Curry. Like I watched that as an assistant producer and was like, oh, I can't ever let that happen to me. I admire her.
Right.
How is that possible? But then on the other end, there's people like Robin Roberts that own Rock and Robin Productions.
Yeah.
So even if she got fired the way that Ann Curry did, she sells programming to ABC and so many other networks with her production company. So I align with that, or Soledad O'Brien align with that in her production company.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's always been my, and as much as I respect it, people who don't have their own, that's fine. I still was like, I have to, because no one's going to tell me, oh, you're done. You're going to, okay, then I'll be Andy Cohen and produce my own show at some point. Fine. Because, you know, he went up in there behind the scenes and then gave himself the show. And I always use that example. Like, if you're an amazing producer and you understand the system and have great ideas, being on camera can happen at any stage. You can be 50 years old and get on camera. Like, to me, that can't be my only goal. So
and
I decided to, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, great hosts, great producers make great hosts. Some of the best producers, like if you went, because I think I guess look, for all the people that are talent that are watching right now, and no, she's not single, you guys. Stop asking. They're asking, is she single? I hope she's single. But for all, they see the glitz and glamour of being on-camera talent and the beauty, but they don't realize that before they count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so much has gone into that final result, right? Into arriving to be on camera, that, you know, you have to be a producer first, a talent last. That's the last part of...
the word talent even frustrates me, because I was a producer for so long. Like, you have to be talented to be a producer. So like, it's not only one, like, and mind you, people on camera are very talented, but so is the entire staff that makes an entire show on air. Even the technical people that make the actual, like, I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, how do you make this go live from my iPad, from my living room?
Yeah.
Like, even though they explained it to me, I still think that you're magical.
Right.
You know, as somebody who has a production company now. But yeah, I just think it's important for me to, a lot of times I've been frustrated because the shows that I work for don't, and a lot of times because of timing reasons, because of the audience we're targeting, but they don't show in detail the concepts and discussions that I want to showcase. And so there's no point of complaining or being upset about it. Just create your own, right? I'm sure if you had me on any of the platforms that you worked for in the past, the conversation couldn't go this long. So I ask her about 1, 2, and 3 is done.
Done, right.
5-minute maximum, and that's a lot of time.
Right. Or someone in your ear like, okay, wrap it up, or, which is so annoying. There's been so many times I've been like, and we're done. Okay, continue. You know what I mean? It's just like the producers kick it, but you're right though. They, you know, everything is so controlled. Everything is so, there's someone, it's so bizarre to me, Lindsey, how the decision makers that make decisions about content and people on camera can't even do what we do. They don't have, they can't even begin to string a sentence together in front of a guy. I had a producer that was so deathly afraid of being on camera that he would like get hives and stuff, but he was a major asshole. But he would always have something to say about the talent. I'm like, bro, shut up. Like go have a seat, dude. I don't know, nepotism, favoritism, your privilege got you this job and you're not good at it. Get the fuck out, you know? But I digress. But you're right, though. I
try to keep it humble. I'm really trying to keep it humble.
But see,
That's the thing, that I have worked with so many people that have been awesome and mentors, and then on the other spectrum, so many people that have been in control of what content we create and how it looks. And I know that either I'm the audience that they're targeting, or my little brother is, or my aunt is, and I'm like, they're not interested in this. So like, I don't know, or people that I know will tell me, why did you, and I'm like, I had the same thought, but I'm not the executive producer. So now I am the whole executive producer of the content that I like, and that's how I feel. And I know that right now we're in a lot of conversations about licensing. Even what now? Somebody just asked to license the show, so we're having a dialogue about that so that they can put it on their platform. And I'm so excited because that dialogue about having 2 Black men discuss with 4 Black women about how they can support them better is exactly what we're looking for. To me, as someone who had a conversation with my boyfriend about how to support me better when he does a great job, but understanding in totality that every Black man doesn't have somebody in their household that is doing the things that I'm doing, as far as like over explaining, probably being very annoying, and, you know, talking about social justice issues on a daily basis. And so I think when you have that platform and it's easy to digest, we have an upcoming episode with white allies talking about teaching one another about what they can do better to be better allies. And some of them even disagreeing, saying, how about you give us something that we can swallow as opposed to lecturing us? And the host saying, why would we give you something to swallow when we've been getting abused for all these years? Like, we don't have to say it the nice way.
Right.
There's so many perspectives, but to just listen to it. And I had a Republican white guy from Phoenix, Arizona tell me this weekend, I watched the whole episode with the women's panel about how we can better help Black women. And I really appreciated the attorney that was on there. And he quoted specific things. And I was like, the fact that you sat down for an hour and listened to a program and dialogue that really you could walk in a room and say, this has nothing to do with me. I love that because it has everything to do with you. And it's the same way that we can digest even entertainment program when we see 4 white people like Friends or 6 white people as men. And we can say, we can relate to that because we have friends.
Right.
You should look at this content, especially when it comes down to real issues that we're voting on and matter, and say, okay, I can understand why this group of people feels left out of this conversation and how to do my part better to make sure that even if it's just walking in a room and telling my friends, here's how you can do better, you have that responsibility now because you know better, you have to do better.
Right. And it's all because of the idea and the passion, the content, and the bravery you had to put something out there, because a lot of people are also afraid of backlash. I mean, you come into the homes of thousands of people every single day. And before, I would say, I mean, our dear friend and co-host Erica Cobb has been on the show a little bit longer, and I know that she's talked about some pretty sensitive subjects on the show. And for yourself, though, going on such a public forum like that and having such strong opinions, were you ever afraid of backlash? Because I think a lot of I'm not afraid of backlash, especially with something that I'm passionate about. It's just like, no, come for me, please come for me, please teleport to me, because for so long, especially being LGBTQ plus and Black, I've been told to zip it. That I don't matter, my opinion doesn't matter, how I move through the world doesn't matter. But you're on a bigger public platform as a Black woman, and you're very staunch, you're very resolute about how you feel. Were you afraid of, like, oh my gosh, what if I'm too much, or what if I'm too aggressive? And I hate to use the word aggressive because the ABW stereotype is ever present. People love to be like, she's angry, he's angry, bitchy gay Black guy, bitchy Black girl. It's like, you can't be passionate without being angry, right?
Right.
And especially on a lot of these shows, and I'm not sure the demographic or who the target audience is for DBL, but I know that a lot of shows, they claim to be, oh, we're edgy, but really, no, your viewer is a Karen in Joplin, Missouri, that's at home. I'm serious. No, like, it's the truth though, Lindsey. Like, it's Debbie. She's 35 to 65, 2 kids, divorced, works at Family Dollar, makes a median $35, but she loves to watch TV during the day, right? That's who they're targeting. So when you have such strong opinions, being of a marginalized group of people don't like that. They come for you. They're like, nope. What is she saying? So for you, how did you balance that? How did you overcome that fear, if there was fear?
Well, honestly, I haven't had too much of or at least I haven't read the comments of too much of reaction that have been like, when it comes down to social justice issues, I'll say I haven't had any reaction where it was people maybe challenge me, but I'll respond to them in my comments. Like, I understand why you feel that way. And that's a question that I'll bring up. I'll even have people challenge me, like, when you talk about Black women, bring Black trans women in the conversation. I'm challenging myself to do an entire episode about the trans community.
Love it.
For my own production company. I hear you. So constructive criticism is helpful and helps me grow. I'm never better than learning. I'm open to that idea. But the thing that frustrates me is, like, if I'm on TV and I get on Twitter, you look at your mentions. I look at mine like maybe once a week, and somebody says, oh, this is how you enunciate and pronounce this word. Like, shut your ass up. Why don't you get on the TV? And then somebody told me, don't say important, say important. And I'm like, you know what? I will next time, but, like, also blocked.
Right. Yeah.
Those people kill me because, like, you took the time out. Like, you took the whole time out just to critique me when you wouldn't even dare get on a public platform with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people watching every day and say anything. So stop.
Yeah, I
really
agree.
Confusing to me.
No, I have zero time for people who want to check me on my job. Like, especially, look, constructive criticism. Yeah, like, if someone says, I don't know, like, there's you get a lot of notes from producers. You get a lot of notes from people when you work in television, and people
and I take the notes if they're decent notes and not just judging me.
Right, exactly. It's like if they're, it's like you watch how you step to me, bro. But no, but seriously. But then you have these keyboard warriors and these keyboard people
I
that
like
are
that.
like
I haven't heard
that
keyboard warriors.
they're just like, oh my God, she said important instead of important. Or I had someone say I had said what word did I use? I think it was aluminum, and they're like, it's aluminium. And what world is it aluminium, homeboy? Like I'm from Albuquerque. I grew up with aluminum foil. It's not aluminium. Maybe whatever. But this person was trying to read me for again diction, elocution, or you have on the other scope people that say, oh, you talk too white. Your words are too big. Or like, well, which one is it? Like,
Right.
but at the end of the day, though, yes, I agree with you 100%. Don't tell me how to do my job unless you're going to come and do it. Until then, zip it, because they don't know how hard it is to, as I said earlier, have a nuanced, educated, well-informed opinion that's coming from a place of not saying what people want to hear. Also, it's not easy to balance every element. What we're doing here, your co-host, people in your ear, your opinion, being present. That's a skill that not a lot of people can do because live television works like no other. Live television is a mean beast that you have to be a certain type of talent, and I hate using that word, but true, to exist in. So those people can kick rocks. But
Right. And
congratulations.
everybody quickly learned, like, I'm probably I can get along with a lot of people. I love people around. I'm definitely, what is it called? Not extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
And I love people, but I'm very much like, it's a line. So like, if somebody
Yeah.
crosses the line, I will never mince words. I will never hold my tongue.
Right.
And I will tell you exactly how I'm feeling, because we have to have that dialogue. If I don't set a boundary and you don't respect my boundaries, well, then we don't have much to talk about.
Yep, and you show people how to treat you. Shout out to your friend Tiffany Reed. Is she your cousin?
No, she's my best friend.
Okay, you guys look like you be cousins, but you guys have such an amazing relationship. I love when you talk to her. I love watching your guys' lives. I love your videos because, like, it's just, she's this fashion maven, and then you're this journalist, and it's just like this perfect, it's like this yummy and delicious sandwich that I just want to have over and over and over again. Good stuff. But congrats on having a dialogue about having your Lindsey Granger Productions on bigger platforms. I think that's exactly what should be happening, especially now when you're creating content that is for the culture, by the culture, and people are looking for that. So congrats, that's incredible.
Thank you. We've done a lot. We did a town hall for BuzzFeed earlier this year, and that was just about "You're Not Okay." It was after I cried on air, and a lot of people. I keep getting phone calls
because you're so popular.
A lot of calling me twice. A lot of people came and basically told us why they're not okay and what they're doing in their community. And I thought that was very helpful because we never have the mental health talk. We just got comfortable as a community of color with mental health. And so that was a proud moment for us to be a part of and help facilitate that conversation because it's an important one. And that's what I want to do, just keep collaborating with major brands and keep working on projects for myself and just continue to put out content that I know that people, even if it's a small population, it doesn't matter who, if it hits one person, then I've done my job.
I mean, on the money, LG, on the money. Quarantine has been like this discovery period, right? Where we've been able to really sit back and
cut the check. I just think that's hilarious. That's like my favorite saying. Tiffany and I always like cut the check.
Look! People are here for you. People are here all weekend long. They're like, so here's how you know, Lindsey, that people are feeling you is because I had white people like, I fucking love her. Like people like in my DMs like, I love her. She's like, man, I watch her every day. I'm like, really? Good for you. All right, good. I don't have untalented friends. But quarantine has taught us and has allowed us to slow down and really just figure our stuff out, go through whatever. I know you have a beautiful relationship with your boyfriend Colin, who cooks for you. He's a great cook.
I call him a flavor master because who knows how to like put this flavor with, who thinks of that kind of stuff? But he is a great cook.
Colin does.
From down south, so I realized that living in New York and LA, I missed a whole bunch of cooking that was all down south that I didn't even understand that something could be so flavorful. So.
You miss seasoning. You miss seasoning living in LA and living in New York. But what have you learned about yourself in quarantine? And I ask this to all my guests because I think it's very interesting to hear what people say because some people get really deep with it. They're like, I realize that I'm abusive to myself mentally. I don't know, like so many things. But for yourself, like being able to have time to yourself and not being studio and just slow down a little bit, what has bubbled up? What has come to the forefront about Lindsey Granger that you're like, oh, whoa, where is this coming from? Or, oh my God, I'm glad I'm not realizing this.
I realized that I need to go. I had a therapist for the last 3 years, and when I moved, I stopped using her.
Yeah.
Because I had to find one within my state based on some rules of therapy.
Right.
And so I need to find a new one. And that's something that I've been thinking about probably for 2 months. And even the thought, I've been too busy to entertain, which is ridiculous. Like, I have to make space for self-care.
Right.
I have a tattoo that says "Be Still." And a lot of times in this moment, we move around a lot. I don't know if you're similar, but like you just want to go. And even like
of course,
empty conversations feel like you're doing something. So
right.
I was filling my time with like, let's get on a Zoom. And it's like, no, you can pass this work off to people that work with us. I can take some time to myself. I'm still in a relationship. We have to prioritize each other. And so I'm relearning how to be still and relax and maybe like, I don't have to be present. Like, even last night when I saw the news out of Milwaukee, I told you when you texted me that I saw it and I actually deleted Instagram.
Yeah.
So that was probably the slow reason I was coming on this morning, because I had just added it back and it made me connect to audio and video and all that stuff. But I needed a minute because I know that my mental health and self-care has to be important, because like people with kids tell me all the time is that if you aren't happy yourself or in your relationship, then you're going to bring that miserable energy to your children. And if you want to show up for them, show up for yourself first.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm really making a priority. I think after we get off the phone, I'll call the therapist that I was going to reach out to. There is a website that I want to share for people of color that might be looking for therapists.
Sure, share.
Black Girls Therapy. And it really just helps you find a woman or man of color in your area, because that's like this novel thing that I can never find. Is just somebody and of color just means of experience, of diverse experience, like, and it just gives you a plethora of resources to connect with people who accept your insurance, who don't. So you can find somebody that can align with you, maybe an experience. So when you call them crying about, let's say, George Floyd, it's not like a foreign, like, the question, like, are you okay? When the therapist probably knows in this moment why you're crying and that you're not okay.
It's proven that when you seek therapy from people who are of your experience, be it like, being gay and black, I have gay and black friends who go to a gay and black therapist, and they say they emerge so much more centered. And that's just like, the word centered is not even like, because mental health is a spectrum. Like Sam Shocker, a good friend of ours, says you have to treat above the neck, right? And they come out of these sessions and of the whole experience so much better, because they're able to really reveal and connect with someone who actually gets it, versus finding a therapist is like going on a series of dates. You're not going to click with everybody. You're going to, as someone who is a survivor of clinical depression, I've seen many a therapist. As a matter of fact, I need to get back with my therapist. I need to find one here in Miami, because
once you're okay, you like push it off. And that's not good either, because you shouldn't only be going to them when you're like going through trauma. You can also go to them when you're having a regular week.
It's almost as if like when you get sick and you feel better, you're like, oh, I'm okay. But then you get sick again, you're like, oh, maybe I wasn't healed. Or it's ongoing. Mental health is an ongoing lifestyle, not just a one-off occurrence. So I'm glad this conversation has implored you to go and find your therapist. But Lindsey, before I let you go, I know you're a busy woman. You have a successful career. You have an amazing production company. You yourself are an amazing woman. Will Lindsey Granger have her own talk show? Will Lindsey Granger have babies? Will Lindsey Granger get married? What does the future hold for Lindsey?
You know what? I say this all the time. When I was at MSNBC, when I started, there was no Melissa Harris Perry show. So I couldn't tell you that I would be working on her show, and that would be one of my best career experiences. When I was at MSNBC, there was no Revolt TV. It got created while I was there, and then I joined this brand new company. Before I was at the list, it wasn't on my radar that it was a show that existed, right? So at this moment, I would love to work for myself. Like LG Productions is the beginning of that, and I also love DBL, so I would love to stay there. I think it's important for me, though, to continue to work for myself, and hopefully my company becomes so big that when I'm on television is an option. And that's my real goal, because I don't want to have to, the makeup every day and everything I could do without. I love doing it. Like, if I could do like a long form special and interview people long form every once in a while and show up the way that Oprah did on CBS, that would be my dream.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Erica Cobb, shouts E Cobb, love E Cobb. She says, yes,
Hi,
young
Erica.
Oprah. Hey, E. Love Erica. Erica, you guys together are just such great, such. Oh my God, this guy says Carl Chiasafin. Oh my God, Erica Cobb. I'm a huge fan. Same, brother. Same, same.
Hey,
Uh,
Erica.
all right, Lindsay. Look, it has been such an honor to talk to you. A huge fan. I enjoy. Thank you for everything you do every single day. I enjoy watching you. You're such a light. You're so jovial. You're so wonderful, and I respect the level and integrity that you bring to journalism. So I think it's missing, and I'm glad that it resides and exists in you. It lives in you, and just an honor to have you today on the show. So thank you for stopping by.
Well, Jason, I appreciate you. I met you a couple months ago, and since I met you, you had this authentic energy. I think I'm a good reader of people and energy, even though I like most people. But you had this spirit where we have connected, I feel like, even on the smallest levels in DM to like long conversations when I'm crying. You were the first person to text me after that moment on air. And so I really appreciate you just for being authentic and genuine in yourself. And I'm so excited to see all that you continue to do. I appreciate that you're creating content for yourself. I think that's powerful in itself. And I will continue to watch you shine. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you, LG. All right. Well, look, I'm going to go and live my best life now because I got the seal of approval from Lindsey Granger. And you have a good night, and I'll see you soon. Stay safe.
I'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody.